Okay, perfect.
Okay, we're being recorded. Hi, I'm Tracy Spackman. We're going to talk about 5 truths and a lie about babies, and we are with Glow Midwifery. Did I say that right? Midwifery.
Midwifery.
Glow Midwifery. And are you in Flagstaff?
No, so I'm actually here in
Phoenix?
Mesa.
In Mesa?
Glow Midwifery is in Gilbert, but it's actually kind of funny. I don't remember if we've talked about this or not, but I had actually called you for a 15-minute sleep consultation when my first was like 3 months old. I don't know. And then I found you again later for this. But it's just funny because I totally did one of those assessments with you a long time ago when I was living in Flagstaff. But no, our practice is in Gilbert, and all of us moms are in Mesa and Gilbert. And
So that I'm not crazy that I had like Flagstaff on the brain for this in association with you.
you are not crazy, because that is why there's that connection. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, good. And you didn't, when we had our free sleep assessment, you didn't feel any pressure and didn't feel salesy, right?
Not at all. I feel like you treated me like a friend. Like when I spoke to you, I felt like I was just talking to another mom, and it was not salesy or pressury at all.
Okay, good. Because I'm totally a salesperson, and I try so hard to suppress that when I'm talking to moms, because that's not what I want to be all about. I could be if I wanted to be, but that's not.
Well, you did great.
Okay, good. So I'm going to share my screen. And then see if I can move you over here. So it almost looks like I'm looking at you through the camera. I'm looking at the screen. Okay, so 5, can you see it, Kimber?
Yes.
All right, I have like the little talking head up in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So 5 truths and a lie about babies, what every parent needs to know. I'm trying to get all my screens in an easy to use location, and it keeps getting bigger. I'm not techie. I know tons about sleep, but I don't know a ton about. Oh, I can do it that way. All right, I can. I didn't know my mouse would do that. So 5 truths and a lie. Truth number 1, there is a 4th trimester. So, you know, there's 3 trimesters when you're pregnant, and then there is a 4th trimester, which is the first 3 months after you have your baby. So, you know, 12 weeks. Not everyone has heard of it. I certainly hadn't heard of it. But every mother and their newborn will go through it. And it's a time of great physical and emotional change as your body adjusts. As your baby adjusts to being outside the womb, and as you adjust to your new life as a mom. I polled the members of my Sleep Sisters Get Quiet Nights Facebook group, and I asked them, what do you wish you had known before you had a baby? Which is a perfect question for a group like this, because your people haven't had their babies yet. And the most common answer was all about the 4th trimester. So here I'm quoting what someone specifically said. She said, I wish someone had told me that the 4th trimester is a real thing, and that it will drain you and test you, and you will most likely cry. It will have wonderful ups and bad downs. You will be tired, and you will question if you are doing a great job. And then she wanted to stress, you are doing a great job. You will look back on those times with fond memories, and it will go quick. Your baby needs you, not a clean house or folded laundry, but a healthy you just to love them. So anytime you have a question about what does your child need, usually the answer is simple. They need you. You are the answer to just about every problem that your child is having. And you will have really good intuition about what to do about it. And then you'll derail yourself by reading the internet and listening to other people and second guessing yourself. And usually once you find the right answer, it will feel right inside. And you will actually have known it all along and wish that you'd listened to your intuition in the first place. So there is a fourth trimester. So in that fourth trimester, there's all these funny things that I wanted to share with you. When you go to the hospital and after you have your baby, they give you this bottle. So it's a spray bottle, but not like a type spray, but like a squeeze kind of spray, like a sport top bottle. And you fill it with water, and it's kind of ridiculous, but genius at the same time. And when you have a baby, like you still continue to bleed, but when you have to pee and there's bleeding, it hurts and it stings. And so this little bottle of water in the sport top bottle is there so that you can squeeze water onto yourself while you're peeing to flush it out, and it stops it from stinging. I was totally unprepared for that kind of thing. So it's a good tip. That's what it's for. Keep it full of water and keep it in the bathroom at all times. Number 2, emotions are still crazy. You know how you get really hormonal when you're pregnant? Do you still feel hormonal? That doesn't end when you have a baby. You are still hormonal. You still cry over random things. So those touching diaper commercials, if someone took the last cookie that you wanted, or the fact that your baby doesn't wear newborn sized diapers anymore. Let's talk about newborn sized diapers. Most babies don't even get through an entire package of newborn sized diapers before they've increased in weight enough that they only need that they're up to size 1. So don't ask anybody to give you newborn sized diapers, size 1, size 2, size 3, as you're filling out registries, and just buy the smallest pack of newborn sized diapers that you can. Or if you have any friends, they might even have some leftover newborn sized diapers that you can finish off their first package, because babies just, they get bigger. They double in size pretty quickly. Number 3, you'll get poop on you a lot, more than once. Keep an extra t-shirt and a Ziploc bag in your purse. So you're like, what's a Ziploc bag for? The Ziploc bag is so you can take off your poop covered t-shirt and put it in the Ziploc bag. As your kids get older, the Ziploc bag is also something to be kept in the car, because if a child is going to throw up, if you have a Ziploc bag in your car, you hand the Ziploc bag to the child, throw up in that. Like if you're on a car trip or you can't stop, this is like years down the road when they're old enough to throw up. Then they can throw up in the bag and then zip it, and it doesn't fill the car with smell. Ziploc bags are amazing. So the Ziploc bag in your purse, or for your baby's clothes that all get covered with poop, because there's poop everywhere all the time. You'll have conversations about the color of baby poop. That's totally acceptable and normal. And you also might talk about the color of their boogers. Is their nose running green? Is their nose running yellow? All of that kind of thing, because the color helps to determine what the problem is. Number 5, yoga pants are for life, or leggings. Right now, leggings are all in style, which is so great because they're so comfortable. We get to wear leggings all the time now. When I was first having babies, wearing leggings all the time, that wasn't really in style. It wasn't really me. And so I wore my maternity jeans for a long time after having a baby, because they were comfortable. I actually still have some maternity skirts that I think are really cool, and I really like them. And I think it's weird that I still have them, but they were like those super tight, stretchy ones. You cannot tell that they're maternity. But go ahead and be comfortable. I remember feeling so judgy as a young 20-something with the moms that would just wear sweatpants all the time. I'm like, oh, why do you wear sweatpants all the time? Which was a terrible thing for me to have thought, because then once I had babies, I got it. I'm like, oh, this is why you wear sweatpants all the time. Your body is not the same shape. It didn't go right back. Especially with my 3rd child, I never got really thin again. It was really hard. And I just have to accept the reality of, and now I'm 50. I just turned 50. The reality of my 50-year-old body after having 5 kids. Maybe if I try harder, that would be better. But I put about as much effort into it as I want to. I have more important things to worry about. So dress comfortably, be comfortable, and ignore anyone who is being judgy because they just don't know. Those young women who haven't had babies yet, just ignore them. They're just naive and immature. They just don't know. Number 6, your boobs may feel like they've been injected with cement, and all of a sudden it might seem quite reasonable to stuff your bra with cabbage leaves. I think the cabbage leaves thing is totally a myth, but there's a lot of crazy stuff that people read about on the internet. But
the cabbage leaves do not work. Tried it multiple times.
If when you feel like you're too full of milk, the idea was that the cabbage leaves did something to help reduce the amount of milk. It doesn't. So, and so there's all kinds of things with, if you're nursing, that that you just have to figure out and get used to. And if the milk is coming out really fast, and that's hard for a new baby to deal with, that psh, like a hose, sometimes you can express some of the milk first to relax the pressure. So these are just tricks. These are just tricks to figure out. But boobs getting big, full of milk, actually, I loved that. I felt so pretty and womanly with these big boobs. It was, for me, it was awesome. So number 7, waking up with leak circles on your nursing shirts. This is normal for a while. I always felt like there was always a wet spot on me somewhere, up here where the baby would spit up, or here from that, or if I sneezed or coughed and I leaked a little bit down there. It's like, I just needed to change my clothes a lot. That's normal. My sister-in-law, she got up to speak at a big meeting, and she had these circles on her on her blouse. It was like so embarrassing. And she's just like, whatever, this is life. That was probably her 5th child. She's like, this is just the way it is. But you know, if you have a Ziploc bag in your purse and an extra t-shirt, you find yourself in that situation, you can quickly change. One time I had a poopy baby in my women's meeting. And so I went out to the bathroom. It's on like a church. And I went out to the bathroom to change the baby. And I would keep an extra outfit for the baby in my diaper bag. And I would also keep an extra outfit for myself. I had a really big diaper bag in the diaper bag. And when I came back into the meeting, I completely changed my clothes, and I completely changed the baby's clothes because I got poop all over me, because that just happens. And people noticed, like, you changed your dress. I'm like, baby. One time the baby's poop was really helpful. I had been asked to sing a duet in this women's meeting, and singing in public was something that I would do. But as I got older, I started to get more and more nervous about it, to the point that if it was an emotional song, I would actually cry, which really ruins the song. And my baby was in the nursery. And just as I was starting to get freaked out that I was going to cry through this song and ruin it, because that had happened to me before. Someone walked in and handed me my baby from the nursery because she had a poopy diaper. I'm like, this is perfect, because now I'm so distracted by the poopy diaper that I can sing without feeling too emotional. I got through the whole song without crying because I was holding a poopy diapered baby. And then I went and I changed the baby after the song. So, positive poop story. Number 8, you may stress over the umbilical cord. This is normal. So, when the baby comes out, the baby is attached to the placenta through the umbilical cord, and the umbilical cord is attached to the belly button. And then after you give birth, the baby comes out, and then you have to also, then the placenta comes out. And then usually the dad will like snip the cord, and they put a little thing on it that kind of squeezes it shut, so it's not leaking fluid. And then And then it stays like, it's like this, maybe about this big, and it stays attached to the belly button for a little while, a couple days, a couple of weeks, and it just dries up and falls off. And they gave me these alcohol wipes and showed me how to just wipe everything down with the alcohol wipes to keep it clean, and said, don't pull it off, just wait. And I was obsessing about the umbilical cord, and when it was like halfway fallen off, I wanted to pull it off. And just kind of how we get this, you feel like you want to pick at a scab. It was kind of like that. Don't pull it off. Just wait. It will fall off all by itself. And, and you feel emotional about it. Number 9, you quickly realize that your new sleep patterns don't involve a REM cycle so much as a wake up a million times a night to make sure their breathing cycle. So let's talk about this. You have REM sleep and you have non-REM sleep, and it just cycles through it, and that's normal. And your baby will wake up a bunch of times overnight, and that's normal. But you as the parent, if you're waking up a million times to check to make sure that your child is breathing, like once in a while, sure, but constantly throughout the night, you're not getting enough sleep because you're worried and you're anxious about your baby breathing, that's not normal. It can actually be a red flag for postpartum depression. So have you ever heard of a mom holding a mirror over top of her baby's face to see if it makes a cloudy breath pattern? So when babies sleep, a healthy baby sleeps totally silent. You can't hear them. And so it doesn't sound like they're breathing because they're totally quiet, and it's supposed to be quiet. So the mom is holding up a mirror over top of, so they can see that there actually is breath coming out. And if this is worrying you over and over and over again, this anxiety is a potential red flag for postpartum depression. So you'd want to go talk to someone about that. Number 10, waking up another million times to feed them. That is normal. Babies, sometimes they wake up every hour. Sometimes it's every 2 hours. Sometimes it's every 3 hours. The range of normal here is so broad that there is no normal, but it gets better. It really does. If your baby is still waking up every hour at 6 months, that is not normal. If your baby isn't sleeping more than an hour at a time for weeks and weeks and weeks and months, it's probably not a sleep problem. It's probably a feeding problem. Your baby's waking up hungry because they're not being satiated because they're not getting enough to eat. And so talk to your lactation consultant about that and make sure they're having a good latch and that they're getting enough. And you should feel the letdown and talk about all of that, because in the first 4 months, if your baby's not sleeping, and so therefore you're not sleeping because your baby's not sleeping like at all, waking up that frequently every hour, that's not normal. And it's probably a feeding problem, not a sleeping problem. Number 11, not wanting to go outside with your baby because it feels scary. This is normal. That's not postpartum depression. That's normal. And then finally, when you get to go out with your baby and feeling free, that is totally normal. I had some more. Okay. Babies poop. I talk about poop a lot. Babies poop can explode all the way up their backs. That's normal. Laugh. It is funny. It's not funny in the moment you're like, oh, there's poop all over me. I need that Ziploc bag and that t-shirt. Make sure you're prepared and have that in there. I even had an extra diaper bag in my car with my, in the bag where I kept jumper cables, because I had an old car. There was a diaper, a t-shirt, a Ziploc bag, jumper cables, so extra things like that. Number 13, your baby might want to nurse for 30 minutes on each breast every time she nurses. So fire up Netflix, binge watch some shows on the couch, be guilt-free, listen to a podcast or audiobook, stare into your baby's beautiful face. Now, if you have a choice between Netflix or an audiobook or a podcast, there is kind of a good, better, best. And the best is the podcast or the audiobook, because then you can also be looking into your baby's face and make some eye contact with your baby and have a little bit of an interaction while they're nursing, and you get to multitask by listening to something else as well, because that will foster attachment. And then this part, I just learned that when you hold your baby after they've eaten, that helps with digestion. And some babies can't digest properly unless they're being held by their parent. And I thought that was fascinating. And so if your baby has colic, which is when they're like fussy and clingy and crying for multiple hours every day, it could be that they're not digesting very well. And first try holding up your baby against your body. And that actually helps with digestion, which I thought was fascinating. Number 14, babies grunt a lot and loudly. They make lots of tiny little noises. That's adorable. And they sleep with their mouths closed. If your baby is a mouth breather, check for tongue tie. This gets missed all the time. So tongue tie is when this under here is tight, or it could even be back here. That could be really tight. And it keeps the tongue from being able to move around the way that it needs to create a good latch or to be open enough for good breathing. And so if the tongue is so tightly tied with the frenulum down there, that it can't sit on the roof of the mouth when they're relaxed, that negatively impacts the way that the mouth develops, and can even make the chin grow recessed rather than out, which makes the airway more narrow. So if you have a mouth breather or a snorer, take them to a tongue tie specialist to get that assessed. It gets missed by pediatricians all the time. Pediatricians generally are not trained in tongue tie assessment. It's better to go to someone who actually specializes in that. Some lactation consultants do it. I really love Dr. Kara Reek up in North Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, North Phoenix area. It's a bit of a drive for me from Ahwatukee, but she was wonderful. But there's a few.
They also have a Mesa office now too.
They do? That's probably closer to me.
Yeah, they just opened a Mesa office recently, and they are called Arizona Breastfeeding Medicine and Wellness. Just so you mamas know, she's really awesome, and she does the revisions in her office.
Yeah, some parents will come in with their babies and to be assessed, and she's like, oh, tongue tie. And then she fixes it in her office. And often she will say, this baby got this tongue tie from one of you, open up. And then she'll look at the parents, and usually one of the parents also has a tongue tie because it's genetic. And then she'll offer to fix the parent as well, which I think is cool, because then there's these stretches that you need to do to keep it from reattaching. And the parent then knows exactly what the baby is going through. She did mine. I had a tongue tie, and she did mine, and it reattached. Didn't do enough of the exercises and had to have it done again. And as get it done as an adult, there's some chiropractic and body work that you can do that I found was really helpful. And she was just so nice and kind and informative. There's tons of great information on her website. Number 15, you may be confused or terrified of cradle cap. Cradle cap is when it gets all kind of scaly and flaky on the top of their little head, and you want to pick at it. Don't pick at it, and just don't even worry about it. You want to put like oils and creams and breast milk all over it. I mean, it's not going to hurt it. It might help it, but it will go away by itself. It's totally normal. The body and the skin just has to get used to being outside of the womb. It's a different environment. Same thing with little baby pimples. babies get pimples sometimes after a few days. I don't remember my babies getting that, but my sister's baby, she just had a baby a couple weeks ago. And 4 weeks ago, I just saw a 1 month post on her Instagram. She's a photographer, so I just got lots of really good photos. And I remember her talking about the baby pimples that her baby had. It's just it's a different environment out here in the world than it is in the womb. So these things happen as the skin gets used to the air. Number 17, you realize how noisy your neighborhood is when you're desperate for your baby to take a nap in the stroller. Cars slamming, lawnmowers, kids laughing and playing. Shh. Becomes such, you want to say that all the time. Tell everybody, shh, my baby's sleeping. Put a sign on your front door telling people not to ring the doorbell, but then also put a piece of cardboard or something over the doorbell so they can't ring the doorbell. And put your cell phone number on the sign and say, don't ring, don't knock, just call, and let them call you to come get the door. Number 18, newborn life will quickly show you that baby wearing is the best thing ever. So this is called co-regulation. When you put your baby up against your body, there are so many benefits. Digestion is just one of them. But some children have a really hard time regulating themselves because regulation doesn't really start to develop right away. And so they need to be with you, right up against you, and your breathing affects their breathing. So if they're crying and you hold the baby right up against you right here and you deliberately slow your breathing, like don't get all anxious and upset when you're, don't breathe quickly, breathe slowly. And then your baby's body will actually try to match your breathing. And that actually helps them to calm down. So it's called co-regulation. There is baby wearing, I call it baby wearing devices, but maybe you don't know what that is. So just like a sling or a soft fabric-y thing that you put your baby in to hold it up against your chest. There's so many different kinds, but the kind that I had a Snuggly that I'd picked up at a Goodwill type place. And so it wasn't very nice and it just wasn't very comfortable. And I didn't really like using it because it was hard to get in and out. And if the baby fell asleep in it, it was quite an ordeal. The baby would definitely wake up if I tried to put them down into their bed. So I just didn't really use it. But there was this one that I always wanted, the baby Bjorn one, which is like 20 years ago now, probably, right? But that was the one that I wanted. And my friend had one and I borrowed it for a week and I could put my baby in it. And if my baby fell asleep in it, I just had to lean over onto the bed, put the baby's back on the mattress with me like over top of them, and then clip this, and then the baby just stayed in it while I slept, and they were free and I was no longer attached to the baby. And it was amazing. And it wasn't until my 5th child that I realized I could buy a baby Bjorn for $30 at a secondhand store. I'm like, why did I not pursue this? And now there's so much, like baby Bjorn is like, that's not the best one anymore. There's so many really great ones. And I had a friend that made me a sling for my 5th baby, and that was wonderful. And I was able to wear one baby and have another child in the front of my shopping cart and have another 2 sitting in the shopping cart, in the basket of the shopping cart. And a couple of times I even nursed the baby in the sling while walking around a store, which I'm either crazy or brave. I prefer brave. When people say that, you're either crazy or brave, I think they think that I'm crazy. I think that I'm brave. So experiment with different ways to carry your baby so that you can be hands-free. With a sling, you can sit down and nurse your baby and have your arms wrapped around your baby. You can be nursing. And if your arms get tired, you can just let go and your baby stays in place. Or the baby can fall asleep and you can be a little bit hands-free if you have a good baby wearing device. And there's lots of different kinds. And definitely check out the secondhand stores. Number Number 19, there's a soft spot on there on the top of their head right here. It's about this big. And it used to freak me out. Some might freak you out. You don't want to, because they said don't push on it because there's brain right underneath there. And the skull will close, but the skull can't be so big, so formed when the baby comes out, or it wouldn't get through that vaginal canal very easily. It needs to be a little bit malleable. So then over the first month or so, then that starts to close up. Don't let it freak you out. Number 20, the first time that you do a jumping jack or a cough or a sneeze and you realize, my bladder is not holding everything where it needs to be. And so they say, well, do Kegel exercises. And I actually picked up a Kegel exercises sheet today. And it says on there, Kegel exercises is for life. Once you need to do them, you always need to do them for the rest of your life. Like, oh, that's annoying, but it is what it is. You need to exercise for the rest of your life because that's just one of the things that you do. And so driving in your car, every time you hit a stoplight, you might do a few, or if you're sitting, you might do a few, or like if there's some, link it to something. And so then it's easier to do. But sometimes Kegel exercises aren't enough to solve that pelvic floor issues that you can have. I read something on the internet that most women wait 7 years to fix this issue when they have this problem, and they don't talk about it. Well, I waited 14 years to fix my issue. After having my 5th child, I ended up getting a prolapse, and I finally went to see a surgeon who's like, no amount of Kegel exercises would have fixed this for you. I'm like, thank you. I felt so validated. Because my doctor was like, just do Kegels. I'm like, stop saying that. Stop telling me to do Kegels. But with your first baby, Kegels is probably enough. But after 5 babies, Kegels was not enough. I had a prolapse, which is when like something inside of me is like flopping down, like you can see it. And I had to have surgery to fix it. And now he's telling me to do Kegels. I'm like, I'm back to Kegels. And he's like, this is for the rest of your life. 50 Kegels every day. And so it's that type of appointment is very personal and invasive. And it's like his finger is like there. He's like, okay, now do a Kegel. Let me see if you know how to do it. Otherwise, we're going to send you to physical therapy to learn how to focus all your energy on those muscles. And it's like, no, you are good at it. Just do them. And for me, after that surgery, it wasn't about pulling it tight. It was about relaxing because he had pulled it really tight with the surgery. Kimber, am I being too vague?
No, I think you're doing great.
Okay. Because like I'm trying not to be too explicit about prolapse and Kegels and peeing, but I don't know, maybe I'm being too vague.
No, you're good.
Okay. So don't be afraid to talk about it if it's not normal. I couldn't laugh or sneeze without peeing myself. And I had another problem in my throat with that, which I also have gotten fixed. But I used to throw up really easily. And so that would also make me pee myself. And so I'd be at dinner with the family and I would start to choke and I'd walk over to the sink and I would throw up because the food would just get stuck right here. Like I'm not sick. I can't swallow anymore because everything gets stuck right here. And then this was normal. My kid's like, do you need anything, Mom? Like they almost stopped asking. They just kind of ignored me when I would get up and walk over to the sink and throw up. And then I would walk up to my bedroom to change my pants because you can't throw up without entirely emptying the bladder on your pants. And then I have to come and wash the floor by the sink. It's terrible. But this year, my husband, he had COVID last Christmas and he was in the hospital for a really long time. And we hit our out-of-pocket maximum. So like, all right, guys, we don't have to pay anything else. We have maxed out our insurance. Let's go get everything done that we have ever wanted to do that was medically necessary, but have been procrastinating because medical things are expensive. So I got my prolapse surgery finally, and I got my throat fixed. So I don't throw up anymore. I don't pee my pants anymore. And I'm doing Kegels still. Make sure that you're having open conversations about this with someone that you trust. And if they're older and wiser and more experienced than you, they will probably have experiences to share, and you can get some really good advice. It was an older woman who helped me to know that I did not have to put up with this. This wasn't normal. I could go get it fixed. So number 21, if you're breastfeeding, you may feel like you're living your life in 2 to 3 hour increments. For me, it was 90-minute increments. I'd have 90 minutes from the time that I started feeding to the time that I would have to start feeding again. So it was pretty tight. When your baby is about 3 months old, there's this book called The 90-Minute Miracle, and it talks about sleep windows and awake windows. And for a lot of babies that age 3 to 6 months, 90 minutes of awake time is pretty common. So they wake up, maybe even as short as an hour later, they're ready for a nap. And you probably feed them to sleep. That's normal. And then once they wake up, 90 minutes later, they're ready for a nap. And once they wake up, 90 minutes later, they're ready for a nap. And if the naps are short, then it's probably only an hour later. If they're having really long naps, then it might be 2 hours later. But 90 minutes is pretty common. So you can't really get a lot done in 90 minutes, especially if you're holding them for a lot of their nap. So that's normal. Number 20.
I just want to say really quick that it is okay to hold your baby. You can't spoil a baby. With my first, I never held her when she napped. I felt like that was bad and I had to put her down, and it took me a lot longer to bond with her. This second baby, I have a baby that's almost 4 months old. I let go of all that and we snuggle, and it's awesome. And now she is getting older, and so I do lay her down more, but just enjoy the snuggles, and that is okay. So that's just my snuggle plug for the day.
That is absolutely right. And that is like one of the most common things that I talk to moms about when they call me for the free sleep assessment, when their baby is young, like under 4 months old. They are worried about that. And they're worried about creating bad habits. And that if they don't put their baby down awake or have their baby sleep in their crib, that they're creating a bad habit, that they won't be able to do it later. And that's not even a little bit true. Not at all. If you hold your baby a lot, you're going to have a good attachment with your baby. They're going to be bonded with you. And in the long run, they will actually become more independent sooner, because they will feel really secure in their relationship with you. They will feel really attached. And so it's good and wonderful and healthy to hold your baby. Plus, having your baby against you helps them with digestion. When I learn a new trick like that, I just have to say it a million times, because like, how did I not know this? How had I not ever heard this before? And so attachment is, I'm taking a class on children's emotional development, and attachment is the key and the answer to everything. And the baby attaches with you with eye contact and touch and closeness, and that helps them to be healthy in every way. So that's really helpful. The 4th trimester will show you how amazing this newborn bubble is. Soak it in, hold your baby, get to know your baby. You want to figure out what their body language and their facial expressions are doing to tell you when they're hungry and when they're tired and when they're bored and when they're seeking closeness and connection with you. And so that 3 months, that 4th trimester, the first 3 months, that's what it's for, to figure it out. And their baby is figuring you out, and you are figuring your baby out. And it's a very important piece. All right. Number 2, truth number 2. This is about postpartum depression. Loving and frustrating thoughts stem from a desire to be a great mom. So moms that struggle with postpartum depression, they are frustrated that they're frustrated. They want to be a good mom, and they're frustrated that they feel like they're lacking, that they're not doing something right. They just want to do everything right, but there's something not connecting with them. And so there's baby blues, and then there's postpartum depression. There's also postpartum anxiety. There's this acronym PMADS that they talk about, but just to keep it simple, baby blues is just mood swings that happen for a few hours or a couple of weeks after you have a baby. But postpartum depression, it happens to about like 10 to 20% of people, whereas baby blues happens like to half of the women. But postpartum depression, 10 to 20% of women get this, and it's intense feelings of sadness, despair, anxiety. Could be really irritable. But it doesn't necessarily happen right after you have a baby. It could come on anytime in the first year. So your baby could be 6 months old, and then it could hit. And it's like, what's going on? It affects the woman's ability to function, and without medical attention, the symptoms may worsen. And so if you have some of these feelings, I love this image that I got from Amy Fields from Arizona Breastfed Babies. She is a wonderful lactation consultant to follow on Instagram. She's got great stuff. So I can't stop thinking about how hard the birth was. Usually the birth is hard and then you just move on. But if you're obsessing about it, that's not normal. You might think, I don't feel like myself. I don't recognize my body. I thought I would feel bonded with my baby right away. And yeah, it's healthy and normal to feel bonded and attached with your baby right away. And when you don't, it's a sign that there's something wrong. No one asked me how I'm doing. I have never been this tired. I had no idea that breastfeeding would be this hard. Breastfeeding can be hard. But if you're obsessing about it, you're not seeking help, then that could be a red flag. I ask a few questions in my sleep history when I work with moms for sleep. I ask, can you sleep when your baby is sleeping? And if you're awake when your baby is sleeping, when you'd like to be sleeping, that's a red flag. And I ask a mom how she's eating. And a healthy mom would say she's eating a lot. She may even feel like have some chuckles about how much she was eating. When I had my first baby, my husband's brother would always tease me because every time he saw me, I was eating something. And I was always eating something every time. But I was breastfeeding a baby. So I was feeding two of us. And so it's normal to always be eating. So if you're not eating or you don't feel like eating, that could be a sign of postpartum depression. Or I ask, are you having any troubling or scary thoughts? Like, what would happen if I just drove off this bridge? What would happen if I just put my baby down and walked away? Maybe somebody else would pick them up and take care of them. Those are troubling and scary thoughts. So those are red flags for postpartum. So I have some more on the next page. Let's see. Restlessness, anger, irritability, sadness, crying all the time, feeling worthlessness or feeling guilt about not being a good mom, especially fear of hurting your baby or yourself, overly worried about the baby. So there's two extremes here, being overly worried about the baby, like waking up a million times in the middle of the night to check on their breathing, or the opposite, where you're not concerned about the baby at all. You may have little or no energy, headaches, chest pain, rapid heartbeat, that was like anxiety, like an anxiety attack, fast and shallow breathing, trouble sleeping well, poor eating habits, trouble focusing, remembering or making decisions, little interest in things that you used to do or used to enjoy, like sex. So if you have postpartum depression, you should never make really big, important decisions like selling a house, moving, getting a divorce, whether or not you'll ever have children again, and taking medical steps to stop yourself from having children. You don't want to make those types of decisions if you have postpartum depression, or if you're sleep deprived, for that matter. So there are a lot of causes for postpartum depression. And sometimes depression runs in your family. And so you might be more susceptible to postpartum depression. But postpartum depression is something that happens to you. It's not a result of a bad choice that you made. You don't, if you feel guilty that you have postpartum depression, like, what did I do that caused this to myself? Nothing. It just happened to you. Like when you get sick, you didn't choose to get sick. It's getting sick is something that happens to you. Lack of sleep can cause many symptoms that mimic postpartum depression. And so a mom who has a lot of these things, usually the fear of hurting your baby, the worthlessness, poor eating habits, some of those are more signs of postpartum depression than it is just sleep deprivation. But sleep deprivation can make you feel restless, anger, irritable, sad, trouble sleeping, have a hard time focusing or making decisions, or having little interest in things like sex. That could just be sleep deprivation. So sometimes it's not really obvious which one it is when I work with a mom whose baby's not sleeping. So if your baby's not sleeping, then you're not sleeping. And once we can get both of you sleeping, then it might become more obvious whether it's sleep deprivation or postpartum depression. So I say the same thing. Don't talk about divorce. Don't move. Don't make any big medical decisions, especially about having more children, until you're getting good sleep. My husband struggles with insomnia, and so he is frequently sleep deprived. And one time he came up to me and said, "I think we should go see a counselor." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" He's like, "I think we should go see a counselor. I think our marriage is in trouble." And I'm like, "What?" And I was completely baffled. I'm like, "Where is this coming from?" And then it hits me. Oh, you're sleep deprived. And when you're sleep deprived, your perceptions are totally skewed. And I'm like, "You need to go see the doctor and figure out how to get better sleep." I don't do adults. I only do help parents with babies. I'm expert in baby sleep, not adult sleep. And usually by the time you're an adult, if you have insomnia that is not caused by a baby, you usually need medication. And he'd been resisting any sort of medication because they're habit forming, and he didn't want to get into that. But he went and he got something, and he got one good night's sleep. That's all it took. And the clouds cleared, and he's like, "You're right. We are totally fine. I'm just sleep deprived." I'm like, "Yeah." But even as a sleep expert, I didn't figure that out right away. So as a mom, if you're sleep deprived, don't make any big major decisions, because once you get good sleep, you'll probably start feeling better. Okay, truth number 3, all babies are truly unique. And temperament plays a huge factor. Babies have different brains and temperament, they have their own unique set of temperament traits. So I love this chart. There's activity level, there's distractibility, there's the intensity in which they show their emotions. There's the regularity, which is really how predictable they are with eating and sleeping. There's sensitivity to light, to sound, to texture. Also, how perceptive are they? That sensitivity. Then there's approachability. How quickly do they warm up to new people? Then there's adaptability. How well do they adapt to the transition of going from the home to the car, or from the arms to the mattress, or from the arms to the changing table? Those are all little spatial transitions. How adaptable are they to that? Or persistence. Does your baby hold out until they get what they want? Or are they pretty easygoing? So like there's a range within each of these things where babies can fall. And if they're mostly on like the right-hand side, high activity, high distractibility, very intense, not predictable at all, extremely perceptive, needs a lot of time to adjust. Transitions are difficult, extremely persistent. I call that an alert baby. And I specialize in alert kids. And so when I say, "Do you have an alert baby?" as they're describing their sleep problems to me, they're like, "What's an alert baby?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, does your baby, seem like really smart? Are they super aware? Do they know what they want and hold out till they get it? And usually it's yes. Alert kids have a much more difficult time self-regulating because they're so aware of all the things going on around them. And self-soothing and settling into sleep is harder for these children. And so they need a lot of help, but they are really smart. And the help that you give them as a parent with extra holding, extra attention, extra help with sleep, you're actually practicing problem solving because they're so aware of what's going on around them and they're so easily stimulated and they need all that extra help. You're problem solving that distractibility with them. And so when they grow up, not only are they super smart and super perceptive, but if they've had a parent that gave them all that extra attention that they were asking for, then they also had extra practice problem solving. And they end up becoming the leader of their peers, which is wonderful. So alert temperament traits are very difficult for sleep and for settling, these intense kids, but they grow up and they're to be amazing if they get parented in a way that is responsive and the parents can be adaptable. So one of the things that temperament can affect is what tired signs do they show. And so if you don't have an alert baby, then yawning and eye rubbing are typical tired signs that you would watch for and follow, and that's when you'd put them to bed. But if you have an alert baby, the sleep window is pretty short. And so yawning and eye rubbing is the end of the sleep window. And if you miss the sleep window, the body floods with cortisol, that stress hormone, and then it's really hard to fall asleep with all of that extra cortisol in your system. And so for an alert baby, you want to, instead of watching for the typical yawning and eye rubbing, you want to watch for the more subtle things that happen before that, like zoning out, staring off into space, glassy eyes, disinterest, and things like that. Some babies, are they consistent? Are they flexible? Do they need consistency, or can they be flexible? What works at bedtime? The road is not straight. So if you're working on a sleep plan and trying to figure your baby out, things can constantly be changing. If you follow the Wonder Weeks, they have these major developmental milestones, and there's 4 big milestones before 4 months. And so it gets easier and then it gets harder. And then it gets easier and then it gets harder. That's normal. So like babies are like a puzzle. They're hard to figure out. So don't compare your baby to another baby because it's not equal. Every baby is truly unique and different. And you just need to figure out what works for your baby. So truth number 4, babies are supposed to wake up at night. They wake up to eat. They wake up to connect. In their sleep cycles, part of the light sleep is actually a partial arousal where they wake up. That's normal. As adults, we wake up and we don't remember that we woke up, but it's normal. Babies also, they don't even have melatonin, that's that sleepy hormone, melatonin. They don't even have melatonin in their bodies until 3 months old. So it's normal to wake up. And then they have all of these major milestones. And when a baby's brain is going through a developmental milestone, the sleep gets put on the back burner and it doesn't really focus on sleep. It focuses on the other emerging skills instead. And then sleep can come back. Babies that don't wake up are at a much higher risk for SIDS. So those are the ones the doctors are concerned about. If your baby's sleeping 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 12 hours overnight, that's so long that they might be in such a deep sleep that they're unlikely to wake up if something was going wrong with their breathing or their heart rate or something, some biological issue was happening to them. So don't put your baby on their tummy to sleep. Don't use things like brown noise, melatonin, things that seem to make sleep better and easier, because babies are supposed to wake up in those first 3 months especially. I love white noise, but there's a deeper thing called brown noise, and that actually helps you get into a deeper sleep. You don't want the deeper sleep for a new baby. You want it to be light sleep. Number 5, Truth number 5, hold on until 5 months and things may get easier. There's no promises in that statement. It may get easier, but you do whatever it takes to get enough sleep. Baby wear, long walks, stroller, take naps, take turns, accept all offers of help. If you're not getting at least 5.5 hours of sleep in each 24-hour period, you can start to show signs of crazy. It helps you stay closer to sane if you get at least 5.5 hours worth of sleep. And otherwise, you might do things like drive through your garage door without opening it, or leave your baby in the house and drive away without your baby in the car. Drive through a red light. These are things that happen when you're so sleep deprived. Take advantage of feeding sessions to make eye contact. And then don't resist speaking to your baby in that high-pitched, silly voice, like, oh, you're so cute. You know, that high-pitched voice, and you kind of feel silly when you do it. That high-pitched voice actually stimulates brain development. So just hold on. So Kimber, how much time do we have? I know we're at 7 o'clock, and I want to talk about these lies, this lie that babies will figure out sleep by 6 months. Do you want me to refer to the YouTube video that I have, or do you want me to quickly go through it?
We usually try to stop around 7.
Yeah, and it's 7.
So it's up to you. I don't know. It's whatever you think.
Okay. Well, I'll just really briefly, I'll just say there are these things: hunger, missed tired signs, insufficient day sleep, too late bedtime, discomfort from medical issues. These are things that keep babies from sleeping. And on my YouTube channel, if you search Tracy Spackman on YouTube, you'll find my YouTube channel. And the class is called 5 Things That Keep Babies from Sleeping. And I have a few versions of it. And they go through, and I spend half an hour in one and an hour in another version of it, going through all of these things. So a baby can't sleep if they're hungry. A baby can't sleep if they're overtired from not getting enough day sleep. A baby can't sleep if you're putting them to bed too late. A baby can't sleep if they're uncomfortable from a food insensitivity, or an allergy, or a tongue tie. Those things make it harder to sleep. And so if anyone tells you that all babies will figure out sleep by 6 months, some of them do, and many of them don't, especially alert kids, and it's a lot harder. So go check out my YouTube channel to see all of these things that can help keep babies. This is kind of like get out of the way from their natural development so that they can get good sleep. So please join my Facebook group, Sleep Sisters Get Quiet Nights. Follow me on Instagram. Call me for a sleep assessment, or even go onto my website for the free sleep assessment and say, send me the link for, here's my email address. Send me the link for your YouTube channel, that 5 Things That Keep Babies from Sleeping. I really want to watch that. And then I would be happy to do that.
What's your Instagram handle?
Get Quiet Nights.
Get Quiet Nights?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Everything has Get Quiet Nights in it.
Okay, we'll post that on our Instagram right after this class, so that everybody that wasn't able to make it can still have it right there. And even moms that are not Glow moms will be able to see it. So just wanted to make sure I knew your Instagram handle correctly.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Is that your last